Okay, we will start now. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Women in the Digital Economy Fund India Round Information webinar. We'll be referring to the Women in the Digital Economy Fund as widef hereafter. My name is Gudia. I'm the manager for the widef India Round. The webinar today is designed to provide you with an overview of the fund, the eligibility criteria, the timelines, and the details to help you to craft a successful application. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all of you on our website. Um, Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat panel. The team will address them as we go into the Q&A. If you have any issue, please flag it in the chat. My team members are managing it. Please feel free to use the live caption feature if you would like to see live subtitles on the screen. This is our agenda for today. We'll be providing an introduction for widefinindia. We'll be providing details of the fund, the eligibility and timelines, and any questions that we receive today will be answered in a Q&A session. Before we begin, I would like to open up by showcasing a video that provides some details around how did widef came into being, so that you all have a view about how was widef designed. So I'll just play that before we go into more details on the round.
Hi, Gudia, we can't see the video if you're playing it.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I had transitioned to the video. I will share it again. Give me a moment.
Gudia, the voice isn't there.
Sorry?
The voice is not there. Like we can't hear it, the video.
Okay. So sorry.
The world is changing faster than ever. Technology is evolving every day, and artificial intelligence dominates the headlines. Yet, as we all look to the future, nearly 1.5 billion women are not even online. The world is increasingly driven by digital access. From how we vote, work, learn, and even how we heal, we cannot afford to leave women and girls behind. $1 trillion in GDP has been missed out on as a result of women's exclusion from the digital world. The costs of this inequality are too high. It's time for a change. The Women in the Digital Economy Fund, widef, is a $60 million game-changing initiative working to close the gender digital divide. Over 5 years, widef will focus on empowering and connecting local voices, innovators, funders, policymakers, and stakeholders to work together to tackle the gender digital divide. Launched by USAID and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and implemented by CARE, GDIP, and the GSMA Foundation, widef is investing in proven solutions and empowering local leaders to change the tide for millions of women and girls before it is too late. From offline to online, women and girls deserve inclusion and equality. At widef, we believe that is the future, and for some, it may just be a click away.
So without further ado, let's start with the introduction to widef. I'd invite Radhika Sareen, the Director for widefinindia, to provide a brief introduction and the details of the key areas of work for widef. Over to you, Radhika.
Thanks, Korea, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for showing interest in joining the widef India webinar. We hope this is useful for you and you take away significant information that can help you assess your eligibility and hopefully apply for funding. To begin with, I'd like to quickly reintroduce widef. So widef accelerates progress to close the gender digital divide by scaling proven solutions that improve women's livelihoods, economic security, and resilience. widef in India is a joint effort by USAID, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Reliance Foundation, and is managed by the GSMA Foundation with support from our larger global managing consortium. Our mission is really to identify and fund proven solutions that empower women to adopt and use the internet meaningfully. As you may have heard, widef in India launched on the 12th of November, which is when we opened the round for funding applications, and it's currently open up until Jan. Before we get into the priority areas, I wanted for everyone to know who is part of the widef team. So we have Guria, who's leading the call. We also have Ankita and Jyoti, who are part of the India Accelerator. And if you all could just do a quick hello. We have other members of our widef team from GSMA and also from the consortium on the call, but we will not be able to get into detailed introduction. So thanks everyone for joining again. And I'll progress into maybe talking about widef and our priority areas that we want to focus on. So as we know, Guria, maybe if we can go on to the next slide. India's digital ecosystem has been expanding rapidly with almost like extensive 4G and 5G coverage. This presents a huge opportunity, not just commercial, but from an impact point of view for digital inclusion. But it's important to state that while there has been this kind of progress on the infrastructure side, there is still a significant gap. So in the last few years, there have been about 37% of women in India using mobile internet, comparing to 53% men. This is data from GSMA's Mobile Gender Gap Report of 2024. And it suggests that there are barriers to digital inclusion that move beyond just infrastructure. And these may come in the way of getting women online. widef has identified 5 priority areas which are critical to advancing women's participation in the digital economy. We've presented them in the slide in front of you. They include access and affordability to ensure the internet is accessible and cost-effective, access to relevant products and tools, digital literacy and skills, safety and security to create like a safe space and a trusted space online. Any application to widef in India would have to address at least 2, if not more, of these key priority areas, and must be willing to support the projects by providing access to data and commitment to generating insights. We can go into a little more detail on what each of these barriers include. And you may have had time to review the detailed eligibility requirements, which we're calling the request for proposals on our website. But I'd like to quickly touch upon each of the priority areas so you can assess what types of solutions may or may not fit into it. When we say accessibility, it's really solutions that improve the accessibility and usability of handsets and mobile internet services. And this could be by improving the design and interface for those who have low levels of literacy, anything that increases access to handsets or data services, where this would be relevant in places where social norms or time constraints make up such issues. I'd like to emphasize, however, that this does not include solutions which are focusing on building network coverage or infrastructure. So, setting up of any solutions that actually improve the coverage. We feel the coverage is there. We would like to see solutions that improve access to existing coverage. Moving on to affordability, I think that's pretty straightforward. It refers to affordability both of devices and of mobile internet services. Any schemes that help improve the ability for users to pay for these services or products, data plans, and devices would be relevant. But to highlight, we are not funding any kind of manufacturing that reduces, the price of such devices, and not in support of subsidy models, wherein the cost of devices is subsidized just for the project period. Then we have digital skills and literacy. This refers to improving basic digital skills, increasing the confidence of users to be able to access the internet and also use it effectively. It could be products or platforms for any first-time internet user to help them better utilize a smartphone, the applications, and navigate around mobile internet. We've seen some solutions in the past which use like games or apps to build this engagement. I think it's pretty obvious, but digital skills also includes any awareness or education campaigns that help people get online for the first time and make it like a safe space. And finally, we have safety and security, which looks at things like any services such as, call blocking, which prevent online harassment, build skills or educational needs of people to help them protect themselves online and generally have a more safe and secure experience online. So these are our co-priority areas that that WideF is focusing on and that we're looking for solutions to address. If you have any questions on this, to your solution, I would encourage you to write to us, because for each application comes with its own nuances. So we will assess that separately. But also, any other questions you have, please feel free to put it in the chat. I will now hand back over to Guria to take you through the details on the eligibility and process of this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Okay, we will dive into the India round funding opportunities. This round will focus on supporting innovative solutions that integrates, as mentioned by Radhika, at least 2 of our 4 priority areas. And it will support grant funding from $100,000 US to $500,000 US over a course of 15 to 18 months. We will also be providing technical support such as capacity building boot camps, knowledge sharing with our other grantees, not just in India, but globally, advisory support on monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and also provide a platform for the grantees to increase their visibility and really raising their profile for potential investors and partners. Now, in terms of eligibility, we are looking for and not-for-profit organizations to apply for this round. WideF will invite applications from for-profit organizations which have fewer than 250 employees and not-for-profit organizations that have FCRA accreditation till January 25, which is the time period from when we are starting the application. You should have an ability to deliver the proposed project that they are pitching for across any location in India and should have demonstrated commitment to support gender equality and digital inclusion for women and underserved groups. We are particularly eager to work with women-led organizations or those that represent strong representation of women either in their leadership or across the organization at all levels. Now, in terms of what solutions is WideF interested in, we request the applicants to focus on solutions that focus on digital inclusion, to articulate solutions that would lead to scaling of a solution, there is a focus on proven solutions. I'll go into more details on what widef means by proven solutions later. Basically, it should have an evidence base. We will be funding ideas uh, which have some amount of evidence to them across any of the pillars, across any two of the pillars that we have mentioned. We would request the applicants to articulate where funding would be required for scaling or sustaining that idea, and definitely articulate what solutions would, like how the solutions would be commercially or socially sustainable and scalable. In terms of what we are not looking for, solutions that are purely focused or are at a proof of concept stage, which do not have evidence. Solutions where the product and solutions are for high-end services, or are solely looking at for upgrading them for high-end services, since that is not the target population that we are looking for. Solutions that are solely focusing on development of ICT centers or purchasing and distributing mobile phones, tablets, or any of the other devices. And solutions which are purely focused or are research focused projects. Some of these details are present in our RFA, so would request all potential applicants to go through that in detail in our RFA. Now, what do we mean by proven? What do we mean by proven solution? Proven solution, according to widef, is any solution that has demonstrated evidence around how women's adoption or meaningful use of the internet or internet-related services can be increased. This evidence could come from pilots, evaluations, research from applicants of other entities, or their own, which could be adopted for the project that they are pitching for. widef has published a report that highlights some of these effective solutions. That report includes case studies and digital skill material adaptable to various contexts. I will request my colleague Ankita to paste the link of that report for everybody's visibility. We would also want to caveat that we understand that there are fewer proven solutions currently on women's online safety and security. Therefore, solutions on promising practices around that which are not fully proven are also welcomed, and that's only for the online safety and security pillar. Moving on, I'd like to highlight that all organizations that are applying should adhere to the definition of local entities as established by USAID. I'm not going to read out the details. Again, these are available in our RFA. Again, I would request my colleague Ankita to paste the link of USAID definitions around local entities. Similarly, the organizations, as they move forward in their application, should have or be in the process of obtaining a unique identity identifier. For everybody's information, the UEI, or the unique entity identifier, is a 12-character alphanumeric ID that identifies organizations that do business with the US government. Again, the detailed link on this is available in the RFA, but we'll also post it in the chat. These are the entities that are ineligible to apply for this round: government-owned agencies, for-profit organization, universities, or academic institutions. I would want to call out that please note that partnerships with such organization, if you feel that it strengthens your application, is permissible, provided they are not downstream partners. For a not-for-profit organization without a valid FCRA license currently, we would request you to write to us separately or drop your details on the chat here in case you would want to be considered for future rounds where there could be a possibility of change in requirements. We would definitely reach out to you. widef will be evaluating all applications based on certain core elements, which are mentioned on the slide: the solution's impact on women's digital inclusion, alignment with at least 2 priority areas, as it has been mentioned earlier, the proposals ability to lay out scalability and sustainability, ensuring that the solutions can create long-term widespread change, innovation and proven success through evidence-based practices, pilots or evaluation. And lastly, leadership and capacity of the organization with focus on women-led organizations or organizations that have a gender balance in their leadership or workforce. The application process involves several stages over several months. Organizations can expect to start their proposed project, say, post October 25th. We have mentioned the various stages that are there across widef's application. So we are accepting applications till the 13th of January 2025. We have another drop-in session on 7th January 2025. So would request any of you, if you have any questions before submitting your applications, to reach out to us. Any shortlisted applicants will be reached out to submit a detailed proposal between March 2025 to June 2025. Proposals are evaluated by an independent selection panel, and the awarded grantees would be notified in September. Now I will hand it over to my colleague Jyoti, who's the operations manager for the India round, who will walk us through the details of the application portal Flux. Over to you, Jyoti.
Thanks, Kriya. I will share more details about the application portal per se. To start an application, please visit our official widef website, or you can visit the dedicated applicant portal Flux, the screenshot you can see, to access the application form and also to register your organization. The link to the portal has been provided in all communication materials. However, I'm also requesting my colleague Ankita to paste it in the chat box for easy reference. Once you have registered and can log in the portal, carefully read through the eligibility criteria, submission requirements, guidelines for filling out the application form. All of this information is mentioned in the request for application, or as Guria called it, RFA, and it is also available on the widef website and on the Flux portal as well. The first section of the application portal application is the eligibility form, which will be open for applicants as soon as they register on Flux. Once the eligibility form has been reviewed and has been approved by the widef team, the remaining section, the second section of the form will open, which will request applicants to fill in details like organizational information, their core or focus area, and proposed project. Please note that once the form is submitted, no changes to the forms will be allowed. So please be sure to click on the submit button once you're sure of the information that you've filled in. Please also note that there'll be an automated notification email that will be sent to your registered email IDs from Flux at every submission stage. So make sure to check your registered email ID as soon as you make any submissions on the portal. In case you don't receive it in the inbox, please make sure to also check in the junk or the spam folder. I would also like to share a few tips for using the Flux portal to submit your applications now. So for example, once you finish filling out the application portal, please make sure to click on the Save and Close button first, and then follow it by clicking on the Submit option at the bottom right. To upload the documents, please click on the green color plus sign to upload the respective documents to the application form. All the uploaded documents can be seen at the end of the form. You can access the request for application and other relevant information and documents on the Flux Apply page once you log in. Before I hand it over to my colleague, I would encourage all the applicants to submit the eligibility form as soon as possible for widef team review and approval, so that you have enough time to complete the second and the pitch part of the application form before the end date, which is 13th January. And if you have any questions or if you're facing any challenges in accessing the Flux portal, feel free to write us to widefquestions@gsma.com. I'll also mention this email ID in the chat for your easy reference. And with this, I'll hand it over back to Guria for our next Q&A session. Over to you, Guria.
Hi, Guria. We can't hear you if you're speaking, but we've got some questions on the chat, which the team have tried to answer. Sure, we're happy to share these links via email as well. Any of the questions, Ankita, any questions we want to speak through? If any responses have been provided on the chat, maybe we can talk through them for the benefit of the wider group. I'm going to paste some of the links that, yeah, thanks, Jyoti.
Sounds good. I think we've answered. So there were a few questions regarding eligibility, which Neha has already answered. One was, is SAM registration considered as UEI for the NGOs? And that's a no. Neha, would you like to talk about this? Okay. There's another question which says, can an organization which was a part of WCCI round apply for WideF3?
Yeah, so I think if you are eligible, there is eligibility criteria set out in the request for applications. If you meet that eligibility criteria, irrespective of if you received a grant from one of the donors from WideF in the past, you are still eligible to apply. Neha, you have your hand raised. Would you like to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, I think I was just going to do it. I got unmuted, but then I typed my question. But I will just reiterate, thank you, Radhika, Guria, Jyoti, and the entire widef team for the presentation. Really appreciate it. I think what we understood, we come from a financial literacy space. We've been working in this space for 4 years. What I wanted to understand is that you did mention that the solution doesn't have to cater to those with high-end devices, which is acknowledged. But is there any other specific target segments that this particular funding window is looking to address in terms of beneficiaries? That would be helpful. Thank you.
So it is we aim for digital inclusion of women and marginalized communities. And this has been, there is some more detail on this in the request for proposal, Neha. So you can have a look at that. But beyond that, there's no additional focus area or something that we are actively looking to support. Anything that drives digital inclusion of women would fall under this.
Understood. Thank you.
Guri, I don't know, maybe you want to moderate some of the questions coming through the chat. We will try and answer most of them as we go along. If we are unable to answer, we will maybe send this out on email. Let's just make a note of all the questions we are receiving.
I'm making a note. Can I just read out to you the questions that are on the chat as well? So maybe we can answer them one by one. That's okay. There is a question that says, can we distribute the digital devices and mobile phones to empower visually impaired higher education students?
I'd like to just emphasize that widef, and particularly this particular round, is looking at proven solutions which will have the ability to demonstrate scale post project. So not just during the grant period, but even after. So therefore, any kind of subsidization of products or services is not encouraged and might not be eligible for funding. I think we're getting a lot of questions, so maybe just to be able to manage the process better and not ensure we don't miss out on any questions, if I can ask everyone to please type their question in the chat and we will respond to it.
The next one is that it says we have a question around major. Sorry.
No, sorry, Ankita. Just there's one question on why we're looking at up to 250 employees as an eligibility criteria. I want to emphasize this is for profits only. And the reason is that WIDEF is running multiple rounds. So just before this round, there was a technical assistance round, which was focused on large enterprises. And for that, the criteria was that you had to have more than 250 employees. So in order to, not overlap resources and make sure we are covering different segments in each round, that is why we're looking at this eligibility criteria. There's a question on sub-granting and if it's allowed or not allowed within the framework of what is legally permissible in India in terms of grant making. We are accepting only one application per organization. So as an organization, you're encouraged to submit only one application. The organization applying will be considered the applicant and who we expect will receive grant funding if successful. Sub-granting is not allowed, wherein a big portion of the project implementation will be undertaken by another entity and not the primary applicant. But this doesn't limit projects in terms of suppliers or contractors or people you can hire and work with or partner with to successfully execute. There will be more guidance on sub-granting for applicants that have been shortlisted for the next stage of process. Yeah.
For it, Radhika, there's also another question about can consortiums apply?
Maybe I'll let Neha respond to some of these questions. There's one on this and one, Neha, also on the type of grant.
So basically, the question on sub-granting is the one that I think, Radhika, you're referring to. Hello?
The question is, Neha, we can hear you.
Yeah.
The question is, can organizations bid in a consortium?
Bid in a consortium. Sorry, I'm not able to see.
I think that question has been answered, Ankita. Only one entity can apply. You can partner with other organizations, but only a single entity can apply. The reason is we go through an extensive proposal development process and we will be conducting due diligence, etc. So we'll do that on one entity and not on several. I hope that answers the question. There's one question on non-profits with valid FCRA but more than 250 employees. Yes, you can apply. On the UEI, I think this is something you can have in place in the next coming months. You don't need to have it at the moment to be able to put in a pitch form. So if that's something you can work on in the coming months, you're still eligible. When you say women count in geography, I mean, there are no specific targets. We are looking for projects that can achieve maximum impact. That goes without saying, but there are no preset targets. And yes, a UEI is a mandatory requirement to be able to receive funding. If you have any specific questions that are relevant only for your application or your type of organization, please write to us. The email is on the chat. And yes, just to emphasize, these are 15 to 18-month projects. So we understand that you might have a solution as a for-profit or even as a not-for-profit that you're running at a longer timeline. But then for this particular time period, what would you set as the objectives of the project? That is something that we can fund. So I think there was a question on if you have a 3-year program, can we have objectives that cover 15 months? And the answer is yes. Any other questions?
There's a question on accelerator for social enterprises.
Okay, maybe just on that, we've got for-profit and not-for-profit. You must be the company who's eventually delivering the grant project in terms of implementation. So if you're able to directly implement it and are within the eligibility requirement, yes, you are eligible to apply. If by applying, there's no scope for sub-granting or then sub-awards. There was a question on salaried employees versus contractual. So the requirement is on staff. So salaried employees, the number limit applies to that. Anything else we want to? There are a few raised hands. If your messages are, some of these are quite specific solutions. So questions. So we might respond to you on email after consulting with our internal teams. Okay, Guri, I'll hand over back to you.
Thank you, Radhika. We have tried to answer most questions in the chat. There have been specific questions on a particular idea or a particular idea that you are interested in pitching. As Radhika mentioned, those are extremely specific to the idea that you are pitching. So we would request you to write to us individually because we cannot discuss particular ideas right now. Were answering questions majorly on the application part. As mentioned on the slide, send your questions to questions@widef.global. By December 15th, we will publish all the questions that we receive on our website by December 23rd. The webinar recording will be available on the widef website. We have an open house session, as mentioned earlier, on January 7th. So if in case you have any more questions, please drop in then about your applications or any challenges that you're facing on submission. We would take it then. In the meantime, please write to us if you have any specific questions. Thank you, and thank you everyone for attending the webinar. We look forward to your applications. Do reach out to our website or Ankita or myself for any other specific questions that you might have. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you everyone for joining.